Hello girls, gays, and non-binary babes. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome. My name is Boston. Today we are doing a very exciting video. I'm so excited for this. So we're talking about fiction books for true crime lovers. So these are books that are not, actual stories. Some are based on actual stories. We will get to that later. I know some people have a hard time with nonfiction, don't like it, so that's whatever. We've got fiction for you. I myself have personally been on a pretty hardcore true crime kick. Lately, I've been listening to true crime books, watching YouTube videos, and I've really gotten into it lately. I was never really one for true crime up until lately. Let's just jump on into it without any further ado. I do want to start with the books that are inspired, at least to me, by true events. So one of them is like, it states it's like a retelling, it's inspired by true events. The other two, I think they are. I think they kind of speak for themselves. Anyway, the first book I will talk about is Blood Countess by Lana Popovic. So this is inspired by Elizabeth Bathory. Elizabeth Bathory was a woman who lived in 18th century / 19th century, I can't remember which one. I want to say somewhere in Europe, and she was a very murderous woman. She was a very bloodthirsty woman, and this is actually targeted as YA. I do think it's a little bit bloody for YA, so if you are, a teenager looking for YA picks, maybe know that there is quite a bit of blood in this one, and it is a little bit on the higher end of YA, so just know that. Elizabeth Bathory was a very, very cruel woman, and this book follows a young girl who goes to work for her, and she kind of finds out exactly what she's getting herself into. I think this was written really well. I love a good bloody story, and this had it. Some people would also call this sapphic. I don't know how I feel about that, considering the context of the story, and I think there's definitely like an infatuation between the Blood Countess and the main character, but considering everything, I think it's I wouldn't consider it female, my opinion, but do with that information what you will. But I do really like this book, and I knew I had to include it in this video. So the next two are not confirmed to be retellings or inspired by the events that I think they were inspired by, but I'm including them because they do seem very similar to these true crime events. So the first one we have here is one that I read a while ago, and that is After the Fire by Will Hill. So this is inspired to me, at least, by the events that took place in Waco, Texas, and it follows the kids after, or at least this story follows these children after they have been rescued from this cult. Pretty much all the adults are dead. The cult, the compound, went down in a big blaze of fire, and it follows the kids and their processing of this event after it has happened. So it mainly follows them in the psychiatric hospital and what they're going through, and it also follows the events that happened leading up to the big blaze of fire. So if you are familiar with what happened in Waco, Texas, which I am fascinated by cults, so I obviously know a little bit about it. This one's definitely fascinating because it focuses a lot on the perspective of the kids and their trauma that they experienced. And I think a lot of true crime stories, or you know, whatever, focus a lot on the actual true crime, and there's nothing really inherently wrong with that. I think this just offers a new perspective and it's very fascinating. So yeah, finally we have another one that is not confirmed to be inspired by these events, but we have The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. If you watched my last video, I did haul this recently, and the premise sounded absolutely amazing to me before I even heard the story of what it could be inspired by. And then I just fell in love with it even more. So I have not read this one, so fair warning. There's also another book on this list that I have not read, so we'll get to that later. But anyway, this follows an apothecary in London, I believe, and I think it's a dual perspective. At least that's what I got from the synopsis. So it follows this woman back in the 18th century, and then it follows a woman like 200 years later. The woman in 18th century London is selling poisons for women to buy to get rid of some terrible men that they know. And this it has to be inspired by, I can't remember her last name, but Julia, insert last name here, and she had an apothecary, or not an apothecary, but she had a cosmetics brand called Aqua Tofana, and this cosmetics thing, it was poison that looked like a cosmetic, but it was really poison, and she was selling poison to women who wanted to kill their husbands because they were abusive. So yeah, this sounds very, very similar, and if you like that story or you're intrigued by that story, I'd probably recommend picking this up because it sounds very similar. And obviously I think you can, you know, get the idea. But I'm very excited to read this, and I have no doubt that it will enthrall me just as the Aqua Tofana story did. The first book that I want to talk about is Girl A. I can't remember who this is by. Please forgive me unless I have the author's name in front of me. I will probably not remember who it's by. It was Abigail something. Anyway, this is about a girl who grew up in, actually, I feel like we can say this is kind of inspired by true events. So this is about a girl who grew up in a house with, I want to say like 5 brothers and sisters, and their life was good in the beginning, and then their father kind of went down the religious rabbit hole, and they ended up being severely abused and malnourished by their parents, more so their father. Their mom just kind of watched and did nothing. And this girl A, ended up running away, getting help, and it follows her years later. And it's kind of like another dual timeline where it follows her and also her story growing up. So she is now grown up in half of this book, and her mom has died, and she has gotten, she's like the executor or whatever of the will, and she has to like decide what to do with the house that they all grew up in and were abused in. She wants to open it as like a community center for her town, and she has to get permission. Like all of her siblings have to have to sign off on this idea. So she has to go around and see them. Some she has terrible relationships with, and some not so terrible. It's very fascinating, and it did definitely remind me of the story of the like really big family. I can't remember where it was, but there was that really big family, and at some point the parents just kept the kids chained to their beds, couldn't use the bath. They were chained to their beds 24/7 basically, and it definitely sounded a lot like that. I do not know all of that story, so keep that in mind, that it may not be inspired, but it definitely did remind me of that. The next book I have, I have not read, but that is True Crime by Samantha Kolesnik. I think I included this for obvious reasons, even though I have not read it. Can you guess what this one's about? So this is a fiction book, and it follows two kids who they are abused by their mother. I think they're twins. I don't know, but they're, yeah, it's a girl and her brother, and they're abused by their mom, and one day they just can't take it anymore. They snap, they kill their mom, and then they go on a murder spree across the country. That's it. Why am I smiling when I say that? I don't know. It just sounds so interesting. And it's super short too, so maybe if you kind of want to dabble into the true crime fiction, this might be a good one. I've heard that this is really good. This is kind of well known in horror booktube. So yeah, I also really love the cover of this one. Absolutely amazing. Looks like a newspaper. Love it. But yeah, I'm very excited to read that, and I imagine, based on the title and the synopsis, that it reads like a true crime story, but not real. So yeah. So next we have a book that I got from the library. This is another YA book, and that is The Girls I've Been by Tess Sharp. This one, I was really not expecting what this was about going into it. I had no clue what it was about, other than what I could glean from the title and the fact that it is sapphic. What this book is about, it's about this girl who, at least in the present timeline, is being held hostage in a bank with her girlfriend and her ex-boyfriend. Awkward. But that's not it. This main character has been through a lot as a child. Her mother raised her to be her accomplice in her con crimes, and our main character doesn't really know who she is, so she's been a lot of people, and she doesn't know kind of where those lines stop and the lines that are her begin. And it is really fascinating, and especially the stories of the cons and her growing up definitely feel true crimey, and it definitely feels like something I would listen to on a Bailey Sarian video. Like, it sounds like something that would happen, unfortunately, in real life. But yeah, very fascinating. And also, if you like a little bit of drama, there's a little bit of drama, and our main character has to, like I said, she's being held hostage. She has to figure out her way out of the situation because she's a raised con artist. She knows her way around a situation, so she's going to try and get herself out of the situation. So very good. Definitely recommend if you are into YA. So next, we have a book that if you've been here for a minute, you probably know about. I've recommended this book quite a bit in many different videos. But next we have If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. I didn't want to put all of my dark academia into this list because then it would be a dark academia list, and we did that a couple weeks ago. Check that out if you're interested. So I picked my favorite dark academia that feels like true crime. And it was definitely this one. So it was between this and The Secret History. I think this one reads a little bit easier, so that's why I picked it. There's murder in this, so there's the true crime, and it follows a group of kids going to this college for Shakespeare plays. Kind of weird, but aren't all dark academia kids weird? Yes. So anyway, there's murder, there's really weird people, and it definitely feels like true crime. It feels almost like, it feels a little bit culty, a little bit murdery, and a lot of it true crime. So obviously had to recommend that one. The final book we have is Dolores Claiborne by Stephen King. I know a lot of people like Stephen King, so I figured I'd throw one of his books in here. If you like true crime and you like Stephen King, boom, here you go. It's about a woman see, I don't want to spoil it, so let me read what they say in the synopsis. So, Dolores Claiborne is a carer, I think I want to say, but the woman she's working for dies in her care, and she is not, there's not enough proof to like convict her, but everyone's kind of like, oh, we think she did it. I think she did it, but I just can't prove it. Dolores Claiborne is definitely a shady woman, and I kind of love her. She's kind of my favorite Stephen King character. She's a lot of people's favorite Stephen King character. So if you're looking for a book with some real good characterization and a bad character you'll probably fall in love with, Dolores Claiborne, baby. Yeah, recommend it. True crimey, and it's Stephen King. So that is the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I certainly had a fun time making this list and reading all of these books, and I will have a fun time reading the ones I have not gotten to yet. So yeah, that's going to be it for this video. If you want more videos like this, let me know, because I will certainly do them. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you did watch this far, leave me a knife emoji in the comments. And yeah, once again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye!